Well, what are you then?
I'm French. Why do you think I have this outrageous accent, you silly king?
Welcome to WatchMojoUK, and today we're looking at the very best Monty Python has to offer.
No, that's not dead, it's resting.
Resting?
Yeah, resting.
First, we're going to be looking at the most underrated sketches from the group.
Number 10. Exploding Penguin on the telly. The Pythons frequently appeared in drag as batty older women. In this sketch, two of these stock Pepperpot characters listen to the surprisingly graphic death of Mary Queen of Scots on the radio before their radio explodes.
I'm Bernard Hollywood and Brian London. And now, Radio 4 will explode.
While waiting for the television to warm up, the two Pepperpots discuss the strange penguin on top of their set, its origins, and whether or not lions molt.
What happens when they molt? Lions don't molt! No, but penguins do. They'll run rings round you logically.
When the TV finally turns on, the announcer tells them the penguin will explode, which it does. It's just two old ladies talking, but the strange exclamations they make and the leaps their conversation takes are incredibly funny.
How did he know that was going to happen?
It was an inspired guess.
Number 9. Merchant Banker. John Cleese excels at playing despicable upper-class types, and in this sketch, he plays a merchant banker. After extorting a ridiculous amount of collateral over the telephone to a man hoping for a loan, he has a meeting with Mr. Ford.
I wondered whether you'd like to contribute to the orphan's home.
Well, I don't want to show my hand too early.
Ford is part of a charity for an orphanage and tries to secure a modest donation. The only problem is that the money-hungry merchant banker can't fathom the idea of giving away money for nothing in return.
It's a gift.
A what?
A gift.
Oh, a gift! A tax dodge!
And once he finally does understand it, he decides to take the exciting new idea for making money and drop Ford through a trap door. The satire of banks remains as relevant as ever today, and Cleese is wonderfully vile as the banker.
Nice to do business with you.
Number 8. Deja Vu. Have we done this one before? It feels like we already... Anyway, this sketch follows the presenter of a fictional program called It's the Mind, in which the host details the phenomenon of deja vu.
On It's the Mind, we examine the phenomenon of deja vu. That strange feeling we sometimes get that we live...
And then he does it again, and then the intro starts. Finally, he rushes to a psychiatrist, only for him to repeat the action several times.
Wait, haven't I seen you somewhere before?
No, Doctor, no. Something very funny is happening to me.
When he gets there, the episode ends. The host's gradual descent into panic is hilarious to watch, but it's the use of the format of television to put the audience inside the mind of someone with deja vu that makes this sketch so memorable.
I have this terrible feeling of deja vu.
Number 7. Oscar Wilde sketch. The Pythons portray many historical figures, and in this one, Oscar Wilde hosts James Whistler, George Bernard Shaw, and King Edward VII at a cocktail party. Wilde makes a witticism, which Whistler then piggybacks on and upstages the playwright.
There's only one thing in the world worse than being witty, and that is not being witty.
Wilde then tries to pass off an embarrassing remark as Whistler's, which Whistler handles gracefully before returning the favour.
Your Highness, you're also like a stream of bat spits.
What?
It was one of Wilde's, one of Wilde's.
It's sodding was not!
When Wilde shifts the guilt onto Shaw, he also makes a witty remark. Wilde and Whistler team up to ruin him. Shaw manages to escape in a most unexpected way, though.
I merely meant, Your Majesty, that you shine out like a shaft of gold when all around is dark.
The clever turns of phrase and historical figures throwing each other under the bus make this sketch fantastic, but it's all set up for a spectacularly juvenile punchline. Number 6. Society for putting things on top of other things. An august body of men in dinner jackets gather for some very serious business. They are the Royal Society for Putting Things on Top of Other Things.
This year, our members have put more things on top of other things than ever before.
The chairman congratulates the members on all their hard work in putting things on top of other things. While he's disturbed to relate that he saw something that wasn't on top of something else, at least it means they still have a reason to gather, because their work isn't done. However, one of the branch heads reveals that they all find it a bit silly.
Well, Mr. Chairman, it's just that most of the members in Staffordshire feel the whole thing's a bit silly.
The chairman agrees and immediately disbands the organisation for good. The sketch may be low on jokes, but its satire of meaningless meetings and organisations is positively timeless.
What have we been doing wasting our lives with all this nonsense? Right, okay, meeting adjourned forever.
Number 5. RAF banter. In this sketch set during one of the World Wars, an RAF squadron leader returns to base to relate an encounter with a German aircraft. However, rather than just say what happened, the squadron leader tells the story using typical pilot banter that replaces every other noun with a colourful metaphor.
Flipped over on his Betty Harpers and caught his cat in the batty.
Unfortunately for him, none of the officers in the hut can make head nor tails of what he's saying. He worries that there's something wrong with his banter, but another pilot rushes in and no one can understand him either.
Do you understand that?
No, I didn't get a word of it.
The banter is evocative and silly throughout. The serpent's chit-chat blows down the goose and the gander, you might say.
No, I still don't get it.
Number 4. Agatha Christie sketch. Murder mystery sketches appear several times throughout Flying Circus, but this one is unique. Jasmina and John arrive home to find her father dead, apparently murdered. However, the pair of them, as well as the various other characters who arrive, all seem to be more concerned with talking about trains and their schedules.
That doesn't matter now, he's dead.
Oh, poor Daddy.
Looks like I shan't be catching the 11:30 now.
Improbably, Jasmina's brother is exposed as the murderer through complex deductions that he is lying about his alibi because of the cast's intimate knowledge about railway timetables. Of course, once the playwright, Neville Shunt, is introduced, all becomes clear. It may be a load of rubbish about train scheduling, but there are some wonderfully absurd jokes, including a running gag about whether the deceased has been, as well as this gem.
How could anyone shoot himself and then hide the gun without first cancelling his reservation?
Number 3. Working class playwright. Sex and violence. This sketch sees a young man named Ken return home to London, where his put-upon mother greets him warmly, while his disgruntled working class father ridicules him at every turn.
Oh, Dad, look who's come to see us. It's our Ken.
It's a cliched setup, but Monty Python have turned it upside down. Ken is a coal miner, while his overly critical father is a playwright.
Tungsten carbide drills? What the bloody hell's tungsten carbide drill?
Eventually, Ken's father's writer's cramp acts up, and Ken is asked to leave, as his father derides him for being a labourer. Working Class Playwright is a fantastic twist on a familiar story, and Graham Chapman's delivery really sells it.
One day you'll realise there's more to life than culture. There's dirt and smoke and good honest snacks.
Get out, you labourer!
Number 2. Secret Service Dentists. A man named Arthur Lemming goes into a bookshop to make a purchase. However, the apparent bookseller, Stapleton, acts very suspiciously, claiming there are no books for sale and trying to speak to Lemming in code.
Good morning, I'd like to buy a book, please.
Well, I'm afraid we don't have any.
He eventually pulls a gun when Lemming asks for a book on false teeth. Stapleton and Lemming are then confronted by a succession of criminals who demand information on a set of fillings, while also wielding bigger and bigger weapons.
This is an anti-tank gun and it's loaded.
These dental criminals eventually break for lunch, and Lemming calls in some dentists to catch them. This miniature, dental-themed spy story is surprisingly compelling, and Lemming's cluelessness and the various eccentricities of the cast make us laugh, even without the gas. Number 1. Woody and Tinny Words. 1942 England sees the upper-class Vernon Jones family sitting and remarking on their croquet hoops. The father, Mansfield, remarks on how he favours wood ones, as well as words that sound like wood.
You can't beat wood. Gone.
What's gone, dear?
Nothing. No, just like the word. It gives me confidence.
What follows is an absurd debate about which words sound like wood and which like tin. Mansfield becomes a little too excited upon discovering that most naughty words sound woody. His daughter Rebecca can't stand the sound of the word tin.
Tinny sort of word. Tin.
Oh, dear, don't say tin to Rebecca. You know how it upsets her.
Sorry, old horse.
Even one of the RAF banter pilots shows up. The sketch is simultaneously like something you might talk about after a few drinks and something that only Monty Python could devise.
Dead, is she?
Red South.
What a blow for her.
Next, let's take a look at the unscripted moments that were left in.
Number 10. Where are we? Monty Python Live, Mostly. The comedy troupe's final live performance, Mostly Together, in 2014, offers a few unscripted moments. The first of these is during the performance of Crunchy Frog. Mr. Milton, played by Terry Jones, describes the various disgusting confections of the Wizzo Chocolate Company.
Whipped into a fondue and garnished with mouse poo.
This causes Terry Gilliam's Constable Parrot to become increasingly ill, eventually vomiting in his helmet. That's where things go off the rails.
You pop it into your mouth, stainless steel bolt, spring out, and punch straight through both cheeks.
Well, where's the pleasure in...
When Gilliam breaks, Cleese quips that he'll be Constable X Parrot, referencing the famous Dead Parrot sketch.
You'll be a Constable X-Parrot.
He then breaks himself, wondering which part they left off on. The live format leads to several of these off-the-cuff moments.
Where are we? Can you remember?
Number 9. Cracking Up. Monty Python Live, Mostly. This live show's run also featured the aforementioned Dead Parrot sketch. It's an iconic sketch, with a Mr. Praline, not Inspector, trying to return a clearly deceased bird which he was sold recently to a pet shop. However, Sir Michael Palin and John Cleese each do their best to make each other laugh throughout the performances. This results in both of them breaking character several times, and even forgetting lines because they're too tickled.
Where were we?
You say, now that's what I call a dead parrot.
Now that's what I call a dead parrot.
While the direction of the sketch may have ceased to be, we'll gladly laugh along with them until we join the choir invisible. Number 8. Lousy Song. Monty Python Sings Again. This previously unreleased song or sketch was completely ad-libbed.
What are you up to? Oh, just listening back to the song.
In an interview with The Guardian, Eric Idle revealed that the sketch was improvised by him and the late Graham Chapman. The pair of them talk over an orchestral ballad he'd recorded, with Chapman lambasting the song as terrible for about 2 solid minutes.
And who's the singer? It's me. It's you? Yeah.
I recommend people avoid this.
The back and forth between the two is quite funny, with Idle even thanking Chapman for his not-so-constructive criticism. They eventually decide to go and have a drink. Whether you think the song is lousy or not, the sketch is absolutely smashing.
You're saying my song is terrible? Yes, I am.
I think I'm over. It's done.
Number 7. Twirl. Monty Python's Life of Brian.
Oh, check up on our ex-leper. Did you say ex-leper?
In this biblical satire film, the titular Brian, played by Chapman, is approached by a beggar on the street. The man, played by Palin, claims to be a former leper. Jesus cured him, which the man is rather put out about. As a beggar, leprosy brought in the coin. Brian eventually pays him, though not as much as the man would like.
My livelihood's gone. Not so much as a buy your leave. You're cured, mate. Bloody do-gooder.
Well, why don't you go and tell him that you want to be a leper again?
It's a hilarious scene, but all the dialogue was scripted. The improvised moment happens at the end, which Palin revealed in a Reddit AMA. As Palin is walking away, he notices some donkey droppings on the ground, and does a last-minute spin to avoid them.
That's what Jesus said, sir.
Thankfully, it only adds to the quirkiness of the ex-leper. Number 6. The Moose, Monty Python's The Meaning of Life.
It's one of the little men from the village. Do come in.
Death is part of life, and a part of the meaning of life, the film, at least. In this segment, the Grim Reaper visits a clueless dinner party. Despite all the evidence, it takes a while for them to accept that they've all kicked the bucket. Death eventually reveals the cause of their deaths, the salmon moose.
A salmon moose.
Darling, you didn't use canned salmon, did you?
I'm most dreadfully embarrassed.
While most of this scene is as scripted, the punchline was not as originally written. So Michael Palin again delivers an apparent ad-lib as the dinner guests all depart for the afterlife.
Hey, I didn't meet the moose.
Number 5. Long pause, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The witch-burning scene from this pseudo-medieval comedy is full of hysterical and quotable lines.
Did you dress her up like this?
No!
No!
Yes, a bit.
But one of its unscripted moments is completely silent. An angry mob asks Sir Bedivere to burn a woman, believing she's a witch. Through terribly faulty logic, Bedivere tries to connect witches burning with them having the properties of wood. However, when he tries to nudge the crowd into sharing his conclusion, the villager played by John Cleese pauses quite a while before answering.
So, why do witches burn?
According to the commentary track for the film, Cleese took extra long that particular take. Eric Idle even tries to bite his scythe to keep from laughing.
Because they're made of wood? Good!
We can hardly blame him. You'd have to be made of wood not to laugh at the scene. Number 4. Not Like the Others, Monty Python's Life of Brian. Life of Brian brilliantly satirises blind faith and dogma more so than faith itself.
I don't really want to laugh.
One of the scenes that best illustrates this is when Brian speaks to his unwanted followers outside his window. He tries to dissuade them from following him, asking that they all think for themselves, as they're all unique. However, one man pipes up and exclaims that he's not different, ironically making him seem both more and less unique than the rest of the crowd.
You're all different. Yes, we are all different. I'm not.
According to Python biographer Kim Howard Johnson's blog, this line was improvised by Terence Baylor, one of the repertory company members from the film, who suggested the line and got approval to shout it out. Quite the achievement for a non-Python. Number 3. Must Be a King, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Holy Grail really plays up the misery and squalor of medieval life.
Bring out your dead!
To that end, this famous scene features a dead collector, played by Eric Idle, arguing with a man played by John Cleese, who tries to pass off his still-living father as dead to get rid of him. Their mundane haggling over a man's life like it's rubbish is hilariously dark, as is the conclusion, which sees the collector club the father over the head.
I feel happy! I feel happy!
But what comes afterwards is actually an ad-lib, as revealed in the commentary track. When King Arthur comes tromping through the village, Idle remarks that he must be a king due to a lack of, let's say, feces about his person.
Who's that then? I don't know. Must be a king. Why? He hasn't got shit all over him.
Number 2. Stolen Wallet, Monty Python's Flying Circus.
And then I found my wallet had been stolen and £15 taken from me.
Sometimes simplicity leads to the greatest comedy. This short sketch sees a man played by Michael Palin approach a policeman, John Cleese. He tells the policeman that his wallet has been stolen. The officer cannot do much though, since the man didn't see anybody nearby.
Do you want to come back to my place?
Yeah, all right.
The man then asks if the policeman wants to come back to his place, which the officer is surprisingly receptive to. According to an interview with Michael Palin by We Are Cult, the entire scene was improvised between the two of them on camera. It may have been off the cuff, but the scene and punchline make several appearances in later Python properties, and it never gets old.
Do you want? Do you want?
Want?
Do you want to come back to my place?
Number 1. God Giggles, Monty Python's Life of Brian.
You find it. Who is able? When I say the name. Dickus.
Ah yes, the famous Biggest Dickus scene. In Life of Brian, the lisping Pontius Pilate, another Michael Palin character, is incredulous that anyone could think the name Biggest Dickus would be made up. He has a friend of that name. Naturally, his gods can't keep straight faces or dry noses, given such a ridiculous premise. Although some sources suggest the gods' actors weren't informed of the scene beforehand, according to Palin's own diary notes, he had to keep improvising during the scene to keep them laughing.
It's called Incontinentia. Incontinentia buttocks.
These ad-libs included names for Biggest Dickus' wife, as well as his final command for the guards to blow their noses and seize Brian. And we're glad he did, since these touches make the scene even funnier.
Next, we're going to be taking a look at the very best Monty Python animated moments.
Number 10, The Prince and the Black Spot, Monty Python's Flying Circus, and now for something completely different. Bizarre fairy tales are a recurring element in Python animations, but one of the most memorable is The Prince and the Black Spot.
One day, he discovered a spot on his face.
The story, narrated by Carol Cleveland, tells of the prince of the land beyond the wobbles. After discovering a spot on his face, the prince ignores it and dies. The spot then comes to life and goes on a journey, encountering a few irritating characters that he leaps on.
Blah, 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 blah.
At last, the Spot finds love and gets married, living happily ever after, but literally ruining the neighbourhood for his racist neighbours.
Agnes, did you just see who moved in next door?
The strange turn the story takes, the rude noise the Spot makes, and the humour throughout make this an enchanting animated tale indeed. Number 9. Purchase a Past, Monty Python's Flying Circus. Advertisements are another Python animation staple. In this one, a grinning cartoon salesman voiced by John Cleese appeals to those whose lives are dull and uninteresting.
Boring life you need? Then purchase a past. Yes, thousands of people have led far more interesting lives than you will ever lead.
He recounts how exciting the lives of other people are, with a montage of cut-out figures doing everything from launching a scantily clad woman from a cannon to a policeman with a ballerina under his helmet.
But now, for the very first time, bits of their lives are being made available for purchase. For only 15 shillings, dullards like yourself can obtain beautifully framed photographs of other people's lives.
The salesman then offers the customer a chance to purchase a past, which entails hanging framed photographs of other people's lives. The customer is less than happy, however, when the people from the photographs decide to move in.
Hello, I'm Uncle Frank and family. Mind if you stay a couple of nights? Or a month? Or 3 years? So,
hello, we're Uncle George and Agnes. Where's the bath?
It's a fever dream of an advert, but we're sold on the concept. Number 8. Opening titles, Monty Python's The Meaning of Life.
Why are we here? What's life all about? Is God really real?
It may be one of Terry Gilliam's last animations, but this title sequence for the last Monty Python film is one for the ages. Set against a song questioning the meaning of life, sung by Eric Idle in an outrageous French accent, this opening sequence is wonderfully timed to the music.
Is life just a game where we make up the rules?
The cartoons touch on images of mundanity, mixed with more complex and esoteric imagery that fits well with the big questions raised irreverently in the song's lyrics.
Is mankind evolving, or is it too late? What tonight is the meaning of life?
God throws out a spherical earth in favour of a square. Disney-going families are printed out of machinery. We may not know why we're here, but if mankind can make silliness like this, life is worth it, no matter its meaning.
For this is the meaning of life. C'est le sens de la vie. This is the meaning of life.
Number 7. Noise Complaint, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The Python's take on this medieval quest is divided into several segments, following each of King Arthur's knights. This animated segment is set to begin Sir Lancelot's tale, but the animated man writing it is startled by a loud noise and scratches out the title. Grumbling to himself, he hurries down a tall tower's many stairs, even falling partway down, as booming sounds echo in the background. The source of the sounds turn out to be clouds, and the sun with huge legs jumping up and down.
Stop that! Go on, clear! Go on, go away! Do it, go away! And you, clear!
As hilariously unexpected as that is, it's even more surprising that they listened to him. If only all bad weather was cleared up so easily.
Bloody weather.
Number 6. Carnivorous Pram, Monty Python's Flying Circus, and now for something completely different. In this animation, a hunched, cantankerous old man pushes a pram through a city.
What a lovely little...
As several women lean over the carriage to look at an apparent infant inside, the pram closes and appears to devour them, which the old man takes glee in.
What a lovely little...
However, the third time this occurs, a voice states that they've had enough and turn the pram on the old man instead, sending him running and putting an end to his prampage.
This is absolutely disgusting and I'm not going to stand for it. There. Kill!
Sometimes simplicity leads to the best comedy, and this cartoon is a short but great one. Number 5. Krelm Toothpaste, Monty Python's Flying Circus, and now for something completely different.
Once again, American defense proves its effectiveness against international communism.
After a secretary falls victim to a communist conspiracy, a cartoon Uncle Sam advertises American defense to prevent communism, using tooth decay to illustrate its spread. But this soon becomes an advert for Krelm Toothpaste.
With American defense, the decay is stopped before it starts. That's why 9 out of 10 small countries choose American defense.
Or Krelm toothpaste.
Krelm's tooth protection is then illustrated using 2 cartoon cars. Finally, the advertisement warps into one about shrill petrol and its new time-dependent engine additive. Gilliam's animations are well known for their ability to translate seamlessly between disconnected scenes, and this sequence is a fantastic example of this. Metaphors become literal, the announcers swap, and there's an awful lot of teeth. Number 4. Opening Titles, Monty Python's Flying Circus. The opening title sequence for Monty Python's Flying Circus changed animations each season, giving it plenty of variety.
Monty Python, the Flying Circus.
Each version has a few things in common, however. Naturally, Liberty Bell plays over all of them, leading a whimsical yet grandiose tone to the ridiculous imagery. They all begin with the show's title being gradually revealed as well. The stream of consciousness animation mixes people, machinery, and animals in various impossible and bizarre ways. The title sequence set the tone perfectly for the show, preparing audiences for the offbeat weirdness that would follow. Oh, and it always finishes the same way too, with the famous Python foot. Number 3. The Killer Cars, Monty Python's Flying Circus, and now for something completely different.
Fleet Street, please.
After an opening gag in which an old lady trips a bus after repeatedly being ignored, a group of people walk past worried about killer cars.
Remember, watch out for the killer cars.
Narration explains that a certain city's rogue vehicles begin killing pedestrians to help with congestion. However, the cars are in turn dealt with by a giant atomically mutated cat. The cat's fate differs depending on the version, with the TV one getting squashed by a hand.
Thank you. You've saved our city.
But at what cost?
Meanwhile, the film version ends with a man reading about a huge catastrophe, since they don't have the budget to show it, and the cat falling down pipes. The cartoon would make a fun B-movie all on its own. Number 2. Opening Titles, Monty Python's Life of Brian.
Brian, the babe they call Brian.
What if the Pythons did a Bond opening? Well, you don't have to wonder, they did, sort of. The opening title sequence of Life of Brian features Gilliam's typical zany animations with a distinctly Roman architectural theme.
He had arms and legs and hands and feet. This boy, whose name was Brian.
The cartoons, like the song, follow a young Brian, though while the animations see him thrown between various monuments that are broken down or zoom around, the music is even more outrageous.
Yes, he grew up to be
Done in the style of the brassy, bombastic John Barry James Bond themes, the lyrics go into exhaustive detail on Brian growing up. Like the angelic singer, these titles nearly reach the sun, even if they don't quite make it. Number 1. Sit-up sequence, Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Sit up! Sit up!
This cartoon appears in the very first episode of Monty Python's Flying Circus, but it's such a quintessential example of Terry Gilliam's animation. Set against a static background, a succession of cut-out animation scenes play out. Women tell young men to sit up, with unexpected results. Several people's bodies turn out to be hollow. Soldiers dance to a tune played with a woman's body. The show hits the ground running with this animation, and its simple design merely makes the humour feel accessible and universal, despite how weird it is. And speaking of running, how about that punchline?
And finally, it's the best of the best. Here's the funniest Monty Python sketches.
Number 20. Upper Class Twit of the Year, Monty Python's Flying Circus.
They're off! Oh, no, they're not. No, they didn't realise they were supposed to start.
There's nothing like a bit of sport, and Monty Python have their own unique take on the sort of pageantry of upper-class athletics.
And now they're coming into their first test, the straight line. They've got to walk along this straight line without falling over. And Oliver's over at the back there.
5 of the Pythons play an assortment of increasingly ridiculously named rich idiots who engage in the titular competition to determine who's the biggest old money dullard of the year.
And now it's kicking the beggar. Simon's there and he's putting the bogey in. And not terribly hard, there's a lot of style and the beggar's down, so Simon can move on.
Each event consists of either something absurdly easy for someone of average intelligence, or plays into the kind of boorish behaviour seen among the privileged that the rest of us find irritating. And it's all brought together by John Cleese's announcer, whose enthusiastic running commentary is truly a delight. The twits may be racing to early graves, but for the audience, it's a race for which event makes us laugh loudest.
And so the final result, upper class twit of the year, Gervais Brookhamster of Kensington.
Number 19. Mr. Creosote, Monty Python's The Meaning of Life.
Good afternoon, sir, and how are we today?
Better.
Better?
Better get a bucket. I'm gonna throw up.
The eponymous Mr. Creosote is a comically obese and odious man who dines at a restaurant and proceeds to projectile vomit into a provided bucket and anything else nearby. The unflappable French waiter takes his absurdly large order and sees to his spewing with the same professionalism.
Oh dear, I have trodden in Monsieur's bucket.
After Mr. Creosote has finished his impossibly large meal, the waiter offers a wafer thin mint to cap it all off, and then runs for cover. The resulting explosion is literally gut-busting for Creosote and often the audience. Love it or lose your lunch to it, no one is ever quite the same after watching the Mr. Creosote sketch. Number 18. What have the Romans ever done for us? Monty Python's Life of Brian. Judea is an ever-contentious region, and its people don't take kindly to the Romans showing up.
We're giving Pilate 2 days to dismantle the entire apparatus of the Roman imperialist state, and if he doesn't agree immediately, we execute her. Cut her head off? Cut all her bits off.
The People's Front of Judea is one such resistance group, among many with similar names. As the group detail their plans to kidnap Pontius Pilate's wife, their leader, Reg, questions what the Romans have ever given them.
And what have they ever given us in return? The aqueduct? What? The aqueduct?
The group then proceeds to answer his rhetorical question literally by listing all the good things the Romans have brought or instituted since they took over.
But apart from the sanitation, the aqueduct and the roads... Irrigation. Medicine. Education. Yeah, all right, fair enough.
And the wine?
It's a wonderful satire of everyone who complains about the government. Reg's rant and the resulting response are just perfect.
What have the Romans ever done for us?
Brought peace?
Oh, peace! Shut up!
Number 17. Stoning. Monty Python's Life of Brian. The entirety of Life of Brian parodies religion and mob mentality, but few scenes encapsulate both quite as well as this one.
You have been found guilty by the elders of the town of uttering the name of our Lord, and so as a blasphemer, you are to be stoned to death.
When an older man is charged, apparently by his wife, of speaking the name of God, he's sentenced to be stoned to death. John Cleese plays the childishly put-upon religious official, while the mob is full of women dressed as men, some of whom are played by men.
Come on.
Sorry, I thought we started.
Go to the back.
The ensuing dogmatic arguments over what does and doesn't constitute blasphemy, and everyone's inability to talk about the accused's crime without saying Jehovah themselves, is comedic gold. What was that saying about casting the first stone?
Right, well, you did say Jehovah.
Number 16. Self-defense. Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Well, I was showing you how to defend yourself against anyone who attacks you armed with a piece of fresh fruit.
You promised we wouldn't do fruit this week.
What do you mean?
John Cleese plays plenty of unhinged lunatics, but this is arguably one of his most bizarre. Cleese plays an instructor in a self-defense class. His reluctant students are instructed in the esoteric art of defending oneself against attackers armed with fresh fruit.
When you're all walking home tonight and some homicidal maniac comes after you with a bunch of Loganberries, don't come crying to me!
The students are eager to learn something useful. The teacher's forceful, crazed demeanour eventually convinces one of them to come at him with a banana.
Nah, come on, attack me! Come on!
The ending varies depending on the version, but the result is the same. The teacher just kills them.
Come at me then! Come on, do your worst, you worm!
As hysterical as this scene is, we have so many questions. Like, why do the students keep attending class? How has the teacher not lost his job? And which fruit traumatized him so?
First thing to do when you're being stalked by an ugly mob with raspberries is to release the tiger!
Number 15. Biggest Dickus. Monty Python's Life of Brian. This famous scene sees Michael Palin as Pontius Pilate. The lisping Roman governor has captured the titular Brian, who claims to have had a Roman father.
What's funny about Biggest Dickus?
Well, it's a joke name, sir.
I have a very great friend in Rome called Biggest Dickus.
Although the chief guard is dismissive of the name Brian provides for his dad, as it's clearly a joke name, like Biggest Dickus, Pilate says nothing wrong. His best friend is named Biggest Dickus. What follows is a Herculean task for Pilate's guards, as they struggle not to laugh at the juvenile moniker.
Do you find it risible when I say the name Biggest Dickus?
According to Palin's own diary, he kept improvising to ensure the extras were always on the verge of laughter. Of course, the name of Biggest Dickus' wife pushes everyone over the edge.
Incontinentia. Incontinentia buttocks.
Number 14. Four Yorkshiremen. At last, the 1948 show. Yes, Python sticklers out there, technically this isn't an original Monty Python sketch. While it does predate Python, it was written by two of its members, and they performed it many times, so we're counting it.
We used to live in a tiny, tumble-down old house with great holes in the roof. House? You're looking to have a house? We used to live in one room, 26 of us.
The sketch sees a group of four wealthy men from Yorkshire enjoying a drink together as they reminisce about their childhoods in poverty.
We lived for 3 months in a rolled-up newspaper in a septic tank. Every morning we'd have to get up at 6, clean out rolled-up newspaper, eat a crust of stale bread, then we'd have to work 14 hours at mill, day in, day out, for 6pence a week.
Their nostalgia quickly turns to competition, as each seems determined to outdo the other with how bad they had it in the old days. The descriptions of their abysmal living conditions range from appalling to downright impossible.
I used to have to get out at Shoebox at midnight, lick road clean, eat a couple of bits of cold gravel, work 23 hours a day at mill for a penny every 4 years, and when we got home, Dad used to slice us in half with a bread knife.
The only thing more unbelievable than their claims is how funny this sketch is. Number 13. Spam. Monty Python's Flying Circus.
What you got then?
Well, there's egg and bacon, egg, sausage and bacon, egg and spam, egg, bacon and spam.
Although it's a tinned meat of questionable origins, spam is also slang these days for inundating someone with a load of things they don't need. And that definition owes its origins to this sketch.
Spam, 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 egg and spam. Spam, 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 baked beans, spam, spam, spam and spam.
When a couple literally drops into a cafe, the waitress rattles off the menu items, all of which contain spam, sometimes to an absurd degree, while the wife is disgusted and tries unsuccessfully to ask for hers without spam. The husband is all for it.
Look, could I have egg, bacon, spam and sausage without the spam? What do you mean? I don't like spam!
Spam, 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 spam.
Oh, and their conversation is often interrupted by the other patrons, all of whom appear to be Vikings, who frequently break into a song about spam. Bizarre and language-defining, spam is quintessential Python.
I'm having spam, 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 baked beans, spam, spam, and spam.
Baked beans are off!
Number 12. Nudge Nudge. Monty Python's Flying Circus.
Is your wife a goer, hey? Know what I mean? Know what I mean? Nudge, 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 nudge.
A nod's as good as a wink to a blind bat, and this sketch is considerably more obvious. Arthur Nudge is an excitable man who approaches an older gentleman at the bar. Using various confusing innuendos, he inquires after the man's wife. His frequent exclamations of wink wink, nudge nudge leave the gentleman nonplussed at first.
Your wife interested in photographs, eh? Know what I mean? Photographs? He asked him knowingly.
However, as Mr. Nudge dances more and more around the subject, the man eventually asks him what he's getting at.
Look, are you insinuating something?
Oh, yes.
Well?
After much prevarication, Mr. Nudge fesses up in one of Python's best punchlines. Say no more.
I mean, look, you slept with a lady.
Yes.
What's it like?
Number 11. French Taunting. Monty Python and the Holy Grail. King Arthur's quest for the Holy Grail is not without its obstacles. The first of these we'll be discussing is when his knights arrive at a castle. After hailing its occupants, they're surprised to discover that they're French.
Well, what are you then? I'm French. Why do you think I have this outrageous accent, you silly king?
The outrageously accented guard that greets them then proceeds to troll them mercilessly, claiming that they've already got a Holy Grail.
I fart in your general direction. Your mother was a hamster and your father smelt of elderberries.
His insults include breaking wind towards their general area and insinuating their parents were rodents and or smell like berries, which is a surprisingly accurate medieval insult. With its incredibly quotable dialogue and combat involving farm animals as projectiles, this scene is one that has left its mark on pop culture, no doubt shaped like a large wooden rabbit.
If you do not agree to my commands, then I shall...
Number 10. Dirty Hungarian Phrasebook. Monty Python's Flying Circus. This was the 1970s, a time when everybody still smoked. As such, if you were heading abroad, you'd be in need of a robust phrasebook that could help you buy cigarettes in a pinch.
I will not buy this record, it is scratched. I'm sorry? I will not buy this record, it is scratched.
Unfortunately, the phrasebook in this famous sketch is anything but. The Hungarian tourist, played by Cleese, visits a tobacconist, played by Jones, and employs his best translations.
Do you want to come back to my place, bouncy, bouncy?
That'll be 6 shillings, please.
If I said you had a beautiful body, would you hold it against me?
Jones, being British, he's relentlessly polite, even in the case of increasingly inappropriate phrases. but when he tries to say something in Hungarian, he gets punched in the face.
What's all this in?
You have beautiful thighs.
What? He hit me.
Drop your panties, or else I cannot wait till lunchtime.
The phrasebook's creator is later put on trial for intending to breach the peace. But sometimes in life, your hovercraft actually is full of eels.
My hovercraft is full of eels.
What?
My hovercraft is full of eels.
Number 9. Always look on the bright side of life. Monty Python's Life of Brian. It's the end of the film, and Brian, still mistakenly identified as the Messiah, is being crucified following an abortive attempt to rescue him.
Cheer up, Brian. You know what they say? Some things in life are bad. They can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse.
Brian, played by Chapman, is serenaded by fellow criminal Eric Idle.
Always look on the bright side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
Always Look on the Bright Side of Life isn't just hilarious because of the absurdity of it being performed during a crucifixion, but it's also an outstanding song in its own right.
If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing.
In a lot of ways, it's gone way beyond even the Pythons, and has been reissued as a single numerous times. Such as its renown, Idle appeared at the 2012 Olympics to perform it, after failing to be launched from a cannon.
So always look on the bright side of death.
Number 8. Argument Clinic. Monty Python's Flying Circus.
I'd like to have an argument, please.
Circus. Have you been here before?
No, this is my first time.
Michael Palin arrives at a strange clinic that charges people for a good, solid row.
Is this the right room for an argument?
I've told you once.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have. When? Just now.
It's Cleese in an office, and he immediately starts to argue about whether Palin is even there for an argument or not, in a debate that quickly descends into the ontological nature of arguing.
No, this isn't an argument.
Yes, it is.
No, it isn't. It's just contradiction.
No, it isn't.
Yes, it is.
It is not.
Palin runs out of time, though, and then begins arguing with Cleese about whether he got the 5 minutes of arguing he paid for, whether he's paid at all, and whether Cleese is, in fact, arguing pro bono.
Well, if I didn't pay, why are you arguing? Gotcha.
No, you haven't.
Is that? If you're arguing, I must have paid.
Not necessarily. I could be arguing in my spare time.
The landmark sketch has since become beloved by students of language and philosophy for its complexity, and we're sure we'll see plenty of argument clinics in the comments below. Number 7. Hell's Grannies. Monty Python's Flying Circus. Idle's a television reporter, letting the public know about the latest menace to British society, a gang of marauding old women.
An ugly kind of violence is rife, stalking the town. Yes, gangs of old ladies attacking fit, defenseless young men.
It's a parody of the Hells Angels, and features a man outfitted in biker gear saying that even he is scared to go outside with the grannies around.
Yeah, sometimes there's 3 or 4 of them. It's not even safe to go out down to the shops anymore.
They day drink in public, assault young men, trip people over, and destroy phone boxes. Idle says the grannies are rebelling because they're so enraged about their children becoming accountants, and they promptly trick him into falling through a manhole.
And they begin to wonder, is it all worth it? Is it all...
It turns out that the Hells Grannies are just one novelty street gang of many, all terrorising 1970s London.
And also vicious gangs of keep left signs.
Number 6. The Spanish Inquisition. Monty Python's Flying Circus. We're now in the year 1912, and a husband and wife are bickering over the trouble at mill.
What on earth does that mean?
I don't know. Mr. Wentworth just told me to come in here and say that there was trouble at the mill, that's all. I didn't expect a kind of Spanish Inquisition.
Nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
A trio of Spanish Inquisitors arrive, but they keep flubbing the speech Michael Palin is trying to make, forcing them to repeatedly leave and come back.
I can't say it. You will have to say it.
What?
You'll have to say the bit about our chief weapons are.
I couldn't do that.
They get more and more expected each time, and it becomes a meta joke when they also keep reappearing in the same episode. Eventually, everybody is expecting the Spanish Inquisition to arrive and accuse them of various crimes against the Pope.
How do you plead?
We're innocent.
We'll soon change your mind about that.
They've also unfortunately left all their violent medieval torture devices behind in Spain, much to their upset. Number 5. The Lumberjack Song, Monty Python's Flying Circus. After leaving a different sketch, Michael Palin ends up in the woods with Connie Booth on his arm, and a troop of Canadian Mounties nearby.
I'm a lumberjack and I'm okay. I sleep all night and I work all day.
He's a lumberjack and he's okay. He sleeps all night and he works all day.
He launches into this now iconic song about the joys of a lumberjack's simple, pastoral life. But our expectations are quickly subverted.
I cut down trees, I skip and jump. I like to press wildflowers. I put on women's clothing and hang around in bars.
The lumberjack reveals he likes to dress as a woman in his free time, and it's this he also associates with the hyper-masculine life of a lumberjack. Suffice to say, the chorus of Mounties and the woman he's with don't take kindly to this revelation.
I cut down trees, I wear high heels, suspenders and a bra. I wish I'd been a girlie, just like my dear papa.
His confession means he gets pelted with tomatoes and booed off. This was also released as a single.
Oh, babies! And I thought you were so budge!
Number 4. The Ministry of Silly Walks, Monty Python's Flying Circus. The genius of this sketch lies in its simplicity, as when you really get down to it, it really is just a group of people doing silly walks. But it's still got the characteristic Python complexity, because it takes inspiration from a long history of physical comedy. And much of those silly walks aren't easy to pull off. It's certainly a testament to Cleese's talents as a physical actor.
Mr. Pewdie, the very real problem is one of money. I'm afraid that the Ministry of is no longer getting the kind of support that it needs. You see?
He skips around, goose steps, flails wildly, and does all manner of bizarre movements. Nobody else in the sketch really bats an eyelid as Cleese arrives for his job at the titular government ministry, where he and his colleagues all develop surreal, silly walks for everyday use.
Take a look at this then.
Number 3. The Black Knight, Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The fearsome Black Knight's only job is to guard a plank of wood, and he'll be damned if he lets King Arthur get past him.
None shall pass.
What?
None shall pass.
Arthur initially wants to recruit him, but the knight takes his duty extremely seriously, and they engage in battle. The famous scene results in Arthur lobbing off the knight's limbs one by one, which the knight repeatedly claims are minor injuries.
Look, you stupid bastard, you've got no arms left.
Yes, I have.
Look!
Just a flesh wound.
The knight's love of taunting is matched only by the rude Frenchman who appears later on, both portrayed by Cleese. He and his many flesh wounds have been referenced countless times in works influenced by the Pythons.
All right, we'll call it a draw.
Number 2. The funniest joke in the world, Monty Python's Flying Circus. You could say that the Pythons came up with many of the funniest jokes in the world during their careers, but none of them were quite on the level of this one.
It was obvious the joke was lethal.
The struggling writer, Ernest Scribbler, suddenly comes up with a joke so funny he immediately dies of laughter. His mother comes into the room to check on him and suffers the same terrible fate. The joke is later retrieved for use by the British Army so that they can deploy it during war.
It's a joke so deadly, it could have Fritz's forces falling about.
They translate the joke into German to see if it still works and get into a joke arms race that results in a ban on joke warfare.
In action, it was deadly.
Number 1. The Dead Parrot, Monty Python's Flying Circus. It couldn't be any other. Not only is the Dead Parrot possibly the greatest and most famous Python sketch of all time, but it's also one of the greatest sketches ever written, full stop.
Oh yes, the Norwegian Blue. What's wrong with it?
I'll tell you what's wrong with it, my lad. It's dead. That's what's wrong with it.
John Cleese arrives at a pet shop with a dead parrot, presenting it to shopkeeper Michael Palin, who insists that the parrot isn't dead so that he doesn't have to deal with Cleese's complaint.
No, that's not dead, it's resting.
Resting?
Yeah, resting.
Palin insists that the parrot is just sleeping, despite Cleese absurdly proving the contrary.
Raise and change! This is your 9 o'clock alarm call!
The parrot is stone cold dead, something Palin knew about when he sold the thing. But, of course, selling parrots is no job for a lumberjack.
That parrot is definitely deceased. And when I bought it not half an hour ago, you assured me that its total lack of movement was due to it being tired and shagged out after a long squawk.
What's your favourite Monty Python sketch? Let us know in those comments below.
Spanish